Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the special Facebook Live of the U.S. Embassy Pakistan. My name's Monica Davis, and I'm the Regional Public Engagement Specialist managing the Lincoln Corners here in Pakistan. As many of you probably know, right now is the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And we here at the U.S. Embassy are recognizing this period along with people from all over the world. And these days run from November 25th to December 10th. Today we're joined by a very special guest, filmmaker Kanwal Ahmed. Kanwal partnered with the U.S. Embassy here in Islamabad to produce 2 documentary films. And we've already featured the first film on our Facebook page on November 25th. So if you haven't gotten a chance to see it, please do check it out. It's a wonderful, really interesting film. Now I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Kanwal Ahmed. So Kanwal is a Pakistani activist, a talk show host and producer, and the founder of Soul Sisters Pakistan, which is a Facebook group created for women to discuss taboo topics and break the culture of silence. She's also the host of her own web series, Conversations with Kanwal, that features stories of people looking to shatter the culture of silence around social issues. So welcome, Kanwal, and could you please tell us first a little bit more about yourself and why you do the work that you do?
Thank you so much for having me today, Monica. I'm so happy to be here. I started working in this field around 8 years ago. And while I didn't start off traditionally as a filmmaker or content creator, I did start off with a space that I curated specially for women to come together, share their issues, talk about whatever they were going through, talk about their stories, talk about their life, all of it in an environment that I tried my best to keep safe and, judgment free. But then as time went on, I kind of realized that when we're here and we share our stories, those stories begin to impact other women on the group. So why not also take these stories outside of the group through content of some form, whether written or whether visual content. And that's kind of how I started doing Conversations with Kanwal, which is my show, as well as now venturing into documentary filmmaking.
That's wonderful. Definitely sharing stories can be so impactful. So I'm glad to hear what an impact that's had for you and for others you've worked with. So can you tell me a little about why you became a filmmaker and a digital content creator? And do you primarily create content for the public or for women in particular?
So my content is for everybody who wants to watch it. Yes, we do tell more stories of marginalized people or underrepresented communities or women, but that doesn't mean that it's only specifically meant for that segment of society or for a certain, you know, certain certain person to watch it. I think it's more important that everybody watches these shows or watches, these documentaries so that they can learn about each other, learn about the issues in society, and then also learn about what they can do in their capacity to change it.
Definitely. I agree. It's important to include everyone in these types of conversations so that we can all figure out what we can do together and come together to create an impact. So as I mentioned earlier, the 16 Days of Activism campaign is an international campaign that was actually started by activists in 1991. And this campaign is really an opportunity for activists around the world to call for prevention and elimination of against violence facing women and girls. In Pakistan, as we all know, gender-based violence remains an issue that many women face daily. So can you tell us a little more about the story you wanted to tell with your first film that we collaborated on, They Said She Did?
Absolutely. So when we first, decided to collaborate, and I thought about, 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, I wanted to obviously tell stories of women who were facing violence, but I also wanted to reach out to those who were working at grassroots levels to help their community and also being able to reach higher levels. So that's when I found out about Marvi Avan. And what Marvi's essentially done is that she's created women protection cells near police stations all over Sindh. So in Pakistan, culturally, women are afraid to go to police stations only because of the fear of harassment, of you know, societal expectations and issues like girls don't go to police stations, or that a police station is essentially a bad place where bad things will happen, and that nobody wants to air their dirty laundry by going to a police station and talking to a man over there about their issues. So when she made these protection cells for women, what they were they were safe spaces for women so that they could come and talk about whatever it is that they wanted to complain about or whatever they had faced, and have their voices heard without any fear. And so these spaces are run entirely by women. The police officer there is a woman. The data, entry person is a woman. The helper, everybody over there is a female. And what that does is that it gives women that space and that feeling of being safe, and being able to talk openly about whatever it is that they want to talk about. And some of them, it's pretty cute actually, but some of them even have like little spaces for kids. So, she set up little corners where if women come in with their children, they can play there, or they can just get the kids distracted while the mom, shares what it is that she's been through. So, I when I searched Marvi for the first time, I couldn't find too much about her on the internet, and I was really surprised because the work that she's done is really profound and it's so impactful. And so when I reached out to her, we were able to sort of find a time that we could work on this together, and so her film was created.
That's wonderful. And I really was amazed at the work she's doing as well when I watched the video for the first time, creating such a safe space for women who are looking for that and who need that. So it's really a fantastic story of someone making a true difference in their community. I'm wondering why you chose to include Marvi's mother as well in the film.
I really wanted people to understand that there is, a human side to activists, because I think sometimes people forget that with all the work that they do, they're not just machines or robots. And, sometimes it can be very difficult to be in the position that Marvi is. So I wanted people to learn about, the fact that, when she's at home, she's just her mom's daughter. She's somebody who would sometimes also like to not just be looked at as the person who is only out there fighting the good fight. And sometimes she has to bear a lot of taunts, a lot of threats, a lot of harassment because of the work that she does. So I just wanted people to see that, oh, there is also this side to Marvi. And other than that, I learned that her mother also had aspirations of becoming an activist, but she wasn't able to back in the day because,
Right.
of all the restrictions. So I really wanted people to see that, oh, life sort of came a full circle here because her daughter was able to do what she wasn't. So just that moment of pride from her mom was really important for me to capture.
Right. I thought that discussion was really interesting where she's talking about how at first her mom wasn't very supportive, and then she
Yeah,
started to understand where she was coming from, and kind of that transformation in their relationship I thought was really interesting. And
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and how I guess, every parent worries about their child, and you could
Yeah,
tell that with Marvi's mother, and how, she was initially very worried about this kind of work for her daughter. But I think
exactly.
understood why it was so important to her and why it was important work in general. So the film focuses on people who work to assist victims of GBV and the abuse that she also risks facing because of her work. So why do you think it was important to show that aspect of the work that Marvi does, maybe the risks associated with her work?
Because I think that people need to understand that when someone is doing the work Marvi is, they need to be supported. And a lot of people feel like it's very, I mean, some people obviously take the liberty of being out there on the internet and just writing things away against people who are working for the betterment of society. They don't realize that, there would sometimes be a day when they would need the same activists for
Right.
themselves, or they would need the same leaders, or the same policies that we're advocating for. Maybe there could be a day that they would need it for themselves or for their family members. So a lot of people really like to harass women who are activists or community leaders or working for the betterment of society, especially online. And so I really wanted to highlight this in the film that, at the end of the day, she's doing what she knows is best for the people around her. And judging by the impact of her work, she's been able to help like tens of thousands of women all over Sindh get their, reports safely filed. So before people pounce on her or before they throw accusations or before they call her names, they need to understand the extent of her work and the positive impact it has in society.
Definitely. Well, when we posted your video, we did receive a lot of comments in the chat box. So it certainly prompted a lot of conversations, which is always great. We love seeing people talking about these important issues. I wanted to read off one of our comments that we received. Someone said, Kanwal, thank you for all that you do to highlight brave women like Marvi, who's working hard for women in Pakistan. We have a long way to go, but we will get there. So what steps do you think the public can take today, tomorrow, or in the future to prevent and help to reduce or eliminate GBV?
I think every person in their capacity can do something within their space. And I don't mean that we need to go out there on the streets every day and protest, or that, we need to do something massive, but like small steps by standing up for each other at home. If you see violence at your own home and you know that you can stand up for it safely, or that you can tell somebody about it, do it. If you see violence in your neighborhood, like plenty of times I see people talking about they saw, a neighbor beating their wife or somebody harassing a woman on the streets. If you can step in, do step in. It is your place, because a lot of people feel like, oh no, like this isn't my place. I shouldn't be. I mean, who am I to say anything? But it is your space. If you feel it is your place, if you feel like within your vicinity someone's being violated and you're there as a witness, you can very well do something about it, and you should. And I think that something as small as that can, spark off a bigger movement. So before we jump into like advocating for it on a higher level, or creating something massive out of it, let's start with our homes and see what it is that we can do to help the people around us.
Definitely agree. And that reminds me of the story that Marvi tells about one of her contacts who says that they have a child, a girl child and a boy child, and the girl wakes up early and makes breakfast and prepares everything for the boy child, and then the person realized, well, why does she have to do all of that? So he empowers the boy child to also do their chores. So
Yeah.
just even small steps like that encourage gender equality, I think can be very helpful as well. So I definitely agree. Another comment we got about the video was women should stand up for their rights but never forget their duties at home. It's not a free ride. So someone wrote that in our comment section. This comment, starts off a bit positive but then takes a bit of a turn. So the idea of women's rights not being a free ride might be upsetting to some women. How do we help amplify the message that women's rights are human rights?
I think that this comment is a bit funny because, but it's also what a lot of people think, that a woman's place is confined to the kitchen or to the home, and only when she does that fully and properly does she deserve a teeny bit of rights. But that's not true. Everybody is born, regardless of their gender, is born free. They're born with their rights, and nobody should have to give us those rights. Those are kind of given to us by God. So I just feel like for people like this, and for the mentality like this which exists in society, the best thing to do is to put content out there which emphasizes gender equality, which really dishes out the truth, and which empowers people to learn more about this. Because a lot of these things are ideas and notions that we grow up with, and the way that society conditions us to think. So we always look at women as the person who belongs in the kitchen, or the person who does XYZ work. we can only start changing it by overall changing the mentality. And for me, I feel like media is the best way to reach people.
Right, exactly. And the last comment that I wanted to mention that we got from your video was someone wrote, "Everyone must stand up for women's rights all around the world. Women's empowerment is a must for development." So why and how do you think women's empowerment and development are connected in real life or in your film?
I think that we could just look at Marby, for example. Her mother was not empowered by her parents to be able to do the work that she wanted to do. But at the same time, she ensured she kind of broke that cycle. And although she was a little bit afraid for her daughter to do this work, she didn't cut her wings. She let her do what she wanted to do. And now that daughter, who basically came from the same background as her mother, was able to take steps to make a bigger impact in society only because she had the permission and the support of her parents to be able to do it. So, this one, I feel like women have so much to give. And when we truly empower them, when we allow them to study, when we allow them to do the work that they're passionate about, they can go a long way. And they do go a long way. And I think historically, women have proven how much it is that they can do. And we shouldn't have to just keep proving what it is that we can do to be able to get the permission to do what we want to do. But what I mean is that, it goes a long, long, long way.
Definitely. So how do you take criticism as a filmmaker, as a woman, and as a storyteller, especially around this film that centers on the experience of women in Pakistan?
So I think there are two kinds of criticism. One is the type that is obviously positive, and even if the person who is criticizing you doesn't agree with you on some level, they know how to put that across respectfully, and that's the kind of criticism that I think everybody likes to really ponder over and to really think about. But the kind of criticism that comes in the form of online trolling and harassment and threats, I think that's just something that we learn to sort of live with, ignore, um, not really think about too much. But where criticism is concerned, I feel like it's so essential because I don't think that my journey over the last 8 years would have been as fulfilling as it is now if I didn't learn from the people around me on the way and if I didn't listen to people. I feel like listening to people, understanding what it is that I could do better is what's really helped me.
Definitely. Sometimes that feedback is really, really helpful in your
Yeah.
development for anyone, for any professional. My last question for you is, what would you like the public, both in Pakistan and around the world, to take away from your film?
I, with Marvy's film, like I said earlier today, what I really want people to know is that it is in everybody's capacity to do something for society. And I think all of us owe at least some time or some part of our lives to giving back to the people around us, whether we do it at home or we do it outside. And I really wanted people to feel empowered by Marvy's story because I feel like she's such a visionary and she didn't need to be, somebody really high up or somebody very affiliated with politics or be somebody who's very resourceful. She was an ordinary person just like us, and she did something that really changed the lives of so many people. So that's really what I want everybody to take away from this film, that it's in our capacity to do something for the people around us.
That's a wonderful message, and I definitely agree. Each of us can do a small thing that can make a big difference in our communities and with our friends, with our families. So it's a great message, and I hope our audience is listening and will take that with them. So again, if you haven't seen the film, please do check it out. It was posted on November 25th. It's the first of the two series, so keep an eye out for the second one as well. I can't wait to watch it. So thank you very much, Kanwal, for that very interesting discussion about your background and thoughts and motivations as a filmmaker and an activist. I know you're going to be doing also a Tea Time radio interview as well, and you're going to be talking to our Pakistan U.S. Alumni Network, or PWAN, So everyone stay tuned for that. Those should be interesting discussions. And stay tuned also for the second documentary that we'll post on our Facebook page on December 6th. So keep following us on U.S. Embassy Pakistan Facebook page. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great evening, and bahut shukriya. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Kanwal.
you.